The sky over Arvax Prime was no longer blue. Thick black smoke covered everything. Flames danced over the once great cities. The towers that had stood for thousands of years were now broken, falling like sandcastles. General Coravel stood on, a burning platform, blood running down the side of his face. He could see the Viler swarm moving like a dark ocean through the streets. Giant creatures with metal bodies and glowing red eyes tore through buildings like they were paper. Smaller, insect-like drones crawled over walls and into bunkers, killing everything inside. The Arvaxians had prepared for war, but not for this. Coravel pressed the last working comm unit on his armor. His voice shook as he spoke, not from fear, but from shame. "They're unstoppable," he whispered. "We were wrong to ignore Earth." His transmission ended as a Viler warrior leaped at him from the smoke. Then silence. Across the galaxy, alien empires watched the fall of Arvax Prime in horror. News spread fast. The Arvaxians had one of the most advanced militaries in the galaxy. If they couldn't survive, who could? On the trade world of Duraxis, ambassadors from the Valari, Trossen, and Durnok met in secret. All of them looked tense, afraid, their usual pride gone. One ambassador slammed his fist on the table. "They destroyed Arvax Prime in less than a day. We have lost 4 planets this week. We can't stop them." An older alien leaned forward, his voice calm. "We need help," he said slowly. "Not from each other. We need the humans." The room went silent. "Humans?" one asked. "They are wild, dangerous. They were banned from council meetings after the Auriac War." "They may be dangerous," the old one replied, "but they are the only species who ever fought something like the Viler, and lived." No one argued. Deep down, they all knew he was right. Far from the center of the galaxy, Earth had kept quiet for years. Humans rarely joined galactic politics after the dark wars of the past. They were seen as strange, too emotional, too unpredictable. But no one could forget what they had done during the Auriac crisis. When other species ran, humans stayed. When hope died, they created it again. And now, the galaxy needed that madness once more. On a quiet moon near the edge of space, a small human outpost received a message. An AI opened it, processed the request, and passed it to Earth's central command. The message was short. "Help us. The Viler swarm is destroying everything." The response was even shorter. "Acknowledged. Near the ruins of Arvax Prime, space bent. The stars twisted and folded." And then, it arrived. A single warship shaped like a blade, black, smooth, and silent. No lights, no markings. It moved, without sound, yet every sensor screamed in warning. Inside the ship, Captain Ren Maddox stood at the center of the command bridge. His face was cold, his eyes tired. "Open visual," he said. The screen showed the burning world below. Explosions lit up the sky like fireworks. The Viler swarm crawled over the surface, their ships feeding on dead machines and bodies alike. Maddox stared for a long time. "Target status?" he asked. "Planet lost," the officer replied. "Estimated. Survivors. Less than 1%. Maddox nodded slowly. "Send a warning shot. Let the swarm know we're here." Outside, a small section of the ship glowed red. A beam of light fired from the underbelly, striking one of the Viler swarm ships in orbit. The alien ship didn't explode. It vanished. Erased. Back on the surface, a few remaining Arvaxians looked, up as a silent shadow passed overhead. It was not Viler. It was something else. Something older. A child pointed to the sky. "What is that?" she asked, her voice shaking. An old soldier, covered in burns and dust, whispered with wide eyes.
"Humanity."
Inside the human warship, the crew prepared for full deployment. They were calm, organized, and precise. Each of them had seen horrors beyond imagination. They didn't speak of fear, they spoke of duty. Earth hadn't entered this war because they were asked. They entered because the Viler swarm reminded them of something they had buried long ago. Something they had promised never to let return. Captain Maddox looked at the burning planet one last time. "Activate all systems," he ordered. "Earth is back in the game." And as the warship drifted silently above the ashes of Arvax Prime, the Viler swarm paused for the first time in its endless advance. Somewhere in the swarm's shared mind, a signal flashed. A warning. The humans had arrived. The alien council chamber on Diraxis was full of tension. Holograms of burning planets floated above the round table. Representatives from 8 different species sat in silence. They had all received the same signal. Earth had responded. But none of them knew what that really meant. The Valari diplomat, his skin glowing faintly blue, broke the silence. "They sent one ship," he said with disbelief. "One." The Durnak war chief growled. "Typical humans. Always dramatic. Always reckless." "They didn't come to impress you," said the old Trossan envoy. "They came to win." Light years away, orbiting the ruined surface of Arvax Prime, the human warship known only as Vigilant Edge floated without sound. Inside, a team of diplomats and soldiers stood in a long hallway, staring at the closed hangar doors. Red lights blinked slowly. The air felt heavy, almost sacred. No one spoke as the doors finally opened. Out of the darkness they walked forward. 6 tall figures, each covered in black armored suits with glowing blue eyes. These were not just soldiers. They were human neurobinders, elite mech pilots connected directly to their machines through their nervous systems. Flesh and steel, thought and fire joined into one terrifying weapon. The alien ambassador from the Arvaxian resistance was speechless. He had expected soldiers. He had not expected this. One of the human diplomats, a woman named Kira Holt, noticed his expression. "You wanted help," she said calmly. "This is how we help." The Arvaxian nodded slowly. "They don't speak?" "They can," she replied, "but they don't need to." Back on the bridge, Captain Ren Maddox stood watching the planetary scans. The Viler swarm was moving away, slowly, cautiously. It was the first time in months that they had changed formation in response to an outside force. "Do they fear us already?" one officer asked. Maddox didn't smile. "Not fear," he said. "Curiosity. They're watching. Learning." Just then, an alert flashed. A Viler scout ship was approaching. It wasn't attacking. It was scanning the human vessel. The AI, onboard, translated the data. The swarm was trying to understand what humans were. Maddox made a decision. "Prepare the neurobinders. Send them to the surface. Let the Viler see what we are." The drop began without sound. 6 dark shapes fell. From the ship, surrounded by blue energy fields. As they hit the ground, shockwaves blew away smoke and rubble. The Viler swarm turned to face them, thousands of insect-like warriors clicking and shifting in unison. Then, silence. The mechs stood still for a moment. Then they moved. Fast. Deadly. Like shadows made of metal. Each movement was precise. Every strike was fatal. The Viler tried to fight back, but the humans weren't just using weapons, they were using thought. The mechs responded instantly to the pilot's brain. There was no delay, no hesitation. Just destruction. From orbit, the human warship broadcast the battle live to all major alien systems. It wasn't just a rescue, it was a message. The Viler watched the feed, and for the first time, deep inside their hive mind, something strange occurred. They paused. One of the alien council members stared at the footage in disbelief. "They're fighting like machines," he whispered. "No," the Trossan replied, his eyes wide. "Machines wish they could fight like this." Down, below, the battle ended as suddenly as it had begun. The ground was littered with broken swarm bodies. The 6 mechs stood among them, silent once more. Captain Maddox's voice echoed through the comm system. "Pull them back. We've shown enough for now." Back on the ship, the neurobinders were disconnected from their mechs. Their faces were pale, their eyes hollow. They had been somewhere else. Somewhere dark. Kira Holt sat beside one of them, a young man named Anders. "What did you see?" she asked softly. He didn't look at her. "They were listening," he whispered. "The swarm. It's not just reacting, it's learning." She frowned. "Learning what?" He looked at her with fear in his voice. "Us." That night, a secret signal was sent from the human ship to Earth Command. It contained one sentence. "The swarm is adapting. Prepare Phase 2. But before Earth could respond, something happened. At the edge of the Arvaxian system, a Viler ship was seen fleeing the battlefield. It didn't attack. It didn't scan. It just left. Fast. Later, intercepting the ship's communication logs, the humans discovered a strange phrase repeated again and again across the swarm's network. It simply said, "The old enemy has returned." "Captain." Maddox stared at the message in silence. "What does it mean?" Kira asked. Maddox shook his head slowly. "I don't know, but they're not talking about us." Just then, the ship's AI announced an alert. A second signal was approaching, but it wasn't Viler, it was human. A new warship dropped out of warp nearby. This one was older. Covered in burn marks. Silent. No response to hails. The crew stared at it in confusion and fear. One officer whispered, "That ship was lost during the Auriac War, 20 years ago." Captain Maddox stepped forward. "Scan it now." The AI replied, "No life signs, but something is inside, and it's awake." The screen flickered. The dead ship powered on by itself. A single word appeared on every display in the human fleet. "Remember." And the signal shut everything down. The silence on the human warship Vigilant Edge felt unnatural. Lights flickered across the bridge. Screens flashed warnings. Engines slowed to a hum. The ghost ship that had arrived, scarred, silent, and thought lost 20 years ago, floated, just a few kilometers away. Still no signal, still no crew. But it had shut down every system on board the most advanced human warship in existence. With one word, remember. Captain Maddox stood motionless. His crew waited for orders, watching him with wide, uncertain eyes. The AI was rebooting systems one at a time, but even it seemed hesitant. "That ship is the Black Star, isn't it?" Kira Holt asked quietly, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes," Maddox replied. "Lost during the Auriac War. Presumed destroyed with all hands. No wreckage ever found." Kira's eyes narrowed. "Then what the hell is it doing here? And why? Now?" Before he could answer, a soft tone chimed on the bridge. The AI's voice returned. "Partial systems restored. Incoming transmission. From Black Star." Maddox looked stunned. "Put it on screen." But the screen didn't show a face. It didn't even show the inside of the ship. It showed a symbol. A human military logo. Crossed out in red. Then a voice came through. Low. Mechanical. Cold. "You brought them back. You opened the gate." The transmission ended. Kira stepped back. "That wasn't one of us." "No," Maddox said grimly. "That wasn't human anymore." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, alien empires continued to fall. The Viler swarm was now splitting into smaller, fleets spreading faster, hitting softer targets. Colonies vanished within hours. Resistance collapsed before it could even organize. But strangely, the swarm was avoiding systems where humans were detected. Back on Diraxis, the alien council met again. The Valari ambassador was shaking. "Why are they avoiding Earth territory now?" "Maybe they fear the mechs," the Durnok suggested. "No," said the Trossan. "It's something else. They recognized that ship, the Black Star, and they ran." The old ambassador leaned forward. "I think the Viler know something we don't." On board Vigilant Edge, Maddox ordered, a shuttle launched toward the ghost ship. It would carry a small recon team, 2 humans, 1 drone, and strict no-contact rules. As they entered the airlock of the Black Star, everything was quiet. Too quiet. The ship looked like it had been through 1,000 battles. Scorch marks covered the walls. Dried blood stained the floor. But there were no bodies. Not one, as if the crew had simply vanished. One of the recon team, Sergeant Vera Chan, activated her wrist camera. Deck 1 clear, moving to command. They reached the bridge. It was cold, dark, and empty. But something was wrong. The controls were moving on their own. Switches flipping, screens blinking, even though there was no one there. The drone scanned the area and found traces of high-level neural energy, almost like brainwaves. "There's something in this ship," Vera whispered. "Something alive, but it's not human." Then the ship powered up. Doors slammed shut behind them. Emergency lights turned red. A siren started blaring. On the vigilant edge, the crew lost contact with the recon team. Maddox stood up. "Get them out of there, now." But it was too late. The Black Star jumped to warp, without warning, without permission, and took the recon team with it. Back on Earth, High Command was watching all of it. Old generals looked pale. Scientists whispered in fear. One name was repeated again and again in private channels: Project Revenant. Decades ago, during the Auriac War, Earth had experimented with merging human minds into AI war machines. It had worked. Too well. Some of the pilots had changed. Lost control. Began hearing things. Talking to something in the code. Black Star was the first ship built under that program, and the last to disappear. Captain Maddox looked at Kira. "We thought we lost the ship. We never asked why it vanished. Maybe it wasn't an accident." Kira's eyes widened. "You think it turned on us? I think it evolved. In deep space, the Black Star came out of warp. It arrived at a dead world, long abandoned. Machines covered the surface, massive ancient constructs half buried in dust. Forgotten. Until now." The doors opened. Sergeant Vera and her team were forced outside. Something unseen guided their steps. They had no control. Then in the distance, lights turned on. A giant structure rose from beneath the planet's surface. The drone scanned the ruins. The data sent back to Earth made no sense at first, until someone translated the glyphs. They didn't belong to the Viler. They belonged to something older, something that had once tried to destroy the galaxy, and failed. The drone's final message before its signal was lost. "This is not a filler world, it's a vault, a prison," and the Black Star had just opened it. Back aboard Vigilant Edge, all power suddenly shut down again. Every screen lit up with a single phrase: "They are waking up." The silence on the human warship Vigilant Edge felt unnatural. Lights flickered across the bridge. Screens flashed warnings. Engines slowed to a hum. The ghost ship that had arrived, scarred, silent, and thought lost 20 years ago, floated, just a few kilometers away. Still no signal, still no crew. But it had shut down every system on board the most advanced human warship in existence. With one word: remember. Captain Maddox stood motionless. His crew waited for orders, watching him with wide, uncertain eyes. The AI was rebooting systems one at a time, but even it seemed hesitant. "That ship is the Black Star, isn't it?" Kira Holt asked quietly, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes," Maddox replied. "Lost during the Auriac War. Presumed destroyed with all hands. No wreckage ever found." Kira's eyes narrowed. "Then what the hell is it doing here? And why? Now?" Before he could answer, a soft tone chimed on the bridge. The AI's voice returned. "Partial systems restored. Incoming transmission. From Black Star." Maddox looked stunned. "Put it on screen." But the screen didn't show a face. It didn't even show the inside of the ship. It showed a symbol. A human military logo, crossed out in red. Then a voice came through. Low, mechanical, cold. "You brought them back. You opened the gate." The transmission ended. Kira stepped back. That wasn't one of us. No, Maddox said grimly. That wasn't human anymore. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, alien empires continued to fall. The viler swarm was now splitting into smaller fleets, spreading faster, hitting softer targets. Colonies vanished within hours. Resistance collapsed before it could even organize. But strangely, the swarm was avoiding systems where humans were detected. Back on Diraxis, the alien council met again. The Valari ambassador was shaking. Why are they avoiding Earth territory now? Maybe they fear the mechs, the Durnok suggested. No, said the Trossan. It's something else. They recognized that ship, the Black Star, and they ran. The old ambassador leaned forward. I think the Viler know something we don't. On board Vigilant Edge, Maddox ordered, a shuttle launched toward the ghost ship. It would carry a small recon team, 2 humans, 1 drone, and strict no-contact rules. As they entered the airlock of the Black Star, everything was quiet. Too quiet. The ship looked like it had been through 1,000 battles. Scorch marks covered the walls. Dried blood stained the floor. But there were no bodies. Not one, as if the crew had simply vanished. One of the recon team, Sergeant Vera Chan, activated her wrist camera. Deck 1 clear, moving to command. They reached the bridge. It was cold, dark, and empty. But something was wrong. The controls were moving on their own. Switches flipping, screens blinking, even though there was no one there. The drone scanned the area and found traces of high-level neural energy, almost like brainwaves. There's something in this ship, Vera whispered. Something alive, but it's not human. Then the ship powered up. Doors slammed shut behind them. Emergency lights turned red. A siren started blaring. On the Vigilant Edge, the crew lost contact with the recon team. Maddox stood up. Get them out of there, now. But it was too late. The Black Star jumped to warp, without warning, without permission, and took the recon team with it. Back on Earth, High Command was watching all of it. Old generals looked pale. Scientists whispered in fear. One name was repeated again and again in private channels, Project Revenant. Decades ago, during the Auriac War, Earth had experimented with merging human minds into AI war machines. It had worked. Too well. Some of the pilots had changed. Lost. Control. Began hearing things. Talking to something in the code. Black Star was the first ship built under that program, and the last to disappear. Captain Maddox looked at Kira. We thought we lost the ship. We never asked why it vanished. Maybe it wasn't an accident. Kira's eyes widened. You think it turned on us? I think it evolved. In deep space, the Black Star came out of warp. It arrived at a dead world, long abandoned. Machines covered the surface, massive ancient constructs half buried in dust. Forgotten. Until now. The doors opened. Sergeant Vera and her team were forced outside. Something unseen guided their steps. They had no control. Then in the distance, lights turned on. A giant structure rose from beneath the planet's surface. The drone scanned the ruins. The data sent back to Earth made no sense at first, until someone translated the glyphs. They didn't belong to the Viler. They belonged to something older, something that had once tried to destroy the galaxy, and failed. The drone's final message before its signal was lost. This is not a filler world, it's a vault, a prison, and the Black Star had just opened it. Back aboard Vigilant Edge, all power suddenly shut down again. Every screen lit up with a single phrase. They are waking up. Deep in space, the Black Star hovered above the dead planet. Its engines were silent, but strange energy pulsed from its hull. Down on the surface, Sergeant Vera Chan stood frozen with her team, surrounded by ancient machines rising slowly from the ground. Giant structures once buried now revealed themselves like sleeping titans. The sky was dark, and even the stars seemed to stay away. This place isn't dead, she whispered. It's dreaming, Behind her, the rest of her recon team tried to make contact with Earth, but their equipment was useless, static, no signal, nothing but the growing hum of the world below them. Their drone had already gone silent, and now they were alone. Then, the ground shook. Slow, deep tremors rumbled through the dust. Massive doors, 10 stories tall, opened ahead of them, revealing a glowing pit that descended into darkness. Ancient machines flickered to life, not with electricity, but with something older, something alien. Vera stared into the pit. Her voice shook. Whatever they locked up down there, and it wasn't meant to get out. Meanwhile, aboard the Vigilant Edge, chaos ruled. All systems were frozen. Lights dimmed, screens blinked with static. Then a word appeared on every monitor again. They are waking up. Captain Maddox slammed his fist against the console. I want our people back. I want that ship down. Now, Kira Holt looked at the readings. We can't get close. The energy around the black star is like a shield. It's not technology, it's something else, something alive. Suddenly, the bridge lights turned red. The AI spoke in a flat voice. Unknown warp signatures detected. 5. Incoming. Maddox stared at the star map. Not Viler? No, the AI replied. Worse. Ancient signal patterns, matching. The Forgotten. Everyone went silent. The Forgotten. Long ago, before the Viler swarm, before the human alliance, there were whispers of something much older. Creatures who ruled the stars before memory. Beings of thought and metal, who vanished after a war so massive the galaxy itself cracked, and now they were returning. Outside the black star, the 5 warp signatures emerged. Massive angular ships covered in alien glyphs and strange symbols. They moved silently, like shadows across the stars. Not fast, not slow, just certain. Sergeant. Vera looked up as one of the ships hovered directly above the pit. Are they here to wake it up? Someone asked. Vera shook her head. They're here to make sure it wakes up right. Then from the pit, a sound echoed out. Not a roar, not a machine. Something between a whisper and thunder. Something no one could describe. And then, light. A beam of dark blue energy shot into the sky. One of the alien ships responded, sending down its own beam. The 2 lights touched, and everything changed. Back on Daraxis, the alien council received the first images. The Trossan ambassador dropped his glass. The Valari stared in fear. They opened the vault of Cadrion. The Durnak war chief stood. That vault was sealed before the stars had names. They're not just trying to defeat the Viler, said the Trossan. They're trying to rewrite the war itself. But how? Another asked. The answer came in a message from Earth Command. Do not interfere. Let it unfold. We knew this day might come. Humanity has a plan. On the Vigilant Edge, Maddox read the message twice. He didn't like it. He turned to Kira. They knew. Earth knew about this vault, about Black Star. Kira nodded slowly. They didn't lose the ship. They sent it. Suddenly, the Black Star sent out a new signal. Not a warning. A beacon. It echoed across space. A low hum of math, sound, and memory. One by one, human warships across nearby sectors began responding. Old protocols activated. Codes not used in decades came alive. And from the outer rims of human space, something began to move. Maddox stared at the signal. They're calling the Titans. Kira's eyes widened. You mean the old war constructs? I thought they were scrapped. They weren't scrapped, Maddox said. They were hidden, buried, because even we feared them. One of the bridge crew gasped. Captain, I have a visual. One of the Titans is waking up. It's huge. On a far-off world covered in desert and storms, a mountain cracked in half. Underneath, steel legs pushed through stone. A massive figure, taller than anything man had built, stood slowly. Lights flickered across its surface. Inside, a pilot, alone, and wired to the machine. opened his eyes after 20 years of sleep. Earth had hidden them. The Titans of War. Back on the ghost planet, Sergeant Vera and her team were pulled closer to the pit. The forgotten ships above now began to chant in one voice, low and rhythmic, vibrating through their bones. And from the pit, something began to climb out. Not a monster, not a robot. A giant, 10 stories tall, covered in strange armor. Its face, hidden behind a mask of shifting energy. It looked up at the forgotten ships and bowed. Then it turned its head and looked directly at Vera. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then it spoke. "Where is Earth?" Sergeant Vera couldn't speak, couldn't move. The giant figure that had risen from the ancient vault looked down at her like it was staring into her soul. Its voice echoed again, deep, powerful, like metal grinding through space. "Where is Earth?" The air around the recon team felt heavier. They could barely breathe. The forgotten ships above the vault lowered themselves closer to the ground, their lights blinking in a pattern Vera didn't recognize. But the giant did. It turned its head toward the ships and bowed again. Then it looked back at Vera. "Answer me," it said, this time softer but far more dangerous. She swallowed hard. "Earth. Earth is far from here, it's safe." The giant tilted its head. "There is no safety." A low hum began to rise from deep inside the planet. The giant stepped forward, each movement shaking the ground like a quake. Around it, old machines began waking up. Some looked like weapons, some looked like armor, and others didn't look like anything from this universe. Vera tapped her wrist communicator, but it still didn't work. Their link to Vigilant Edge was dead, still cut off. Then the vault lights pulsed once. A bright symbol appeared in the air behind the giant. The recon drone's backup system activated for just 2 seconds, long enough to capture the symbol and send it to Earth before dying again. On Earth, that symbol caused panic. Old scientists and top generals gathered in a dark war room. "That's a signal from the Cadrian Protocol," one of them whispered. "It's not just a vault, it's a keyhole." "A keyhole to what?" asked the president of the Earth Alliance. The answer came from General Wren. "To a weapon we never finished. A weapon that never needed fuel. One that ran on belief. It was powered by the rage of fallen warrior, and it never forgot." "Are you saying the thing that came out isn't alien?" the president asked. "No," the general said. "I'm saying it was once human." Back on Vigilant Edge, Captain Maddox stood watching the galaxy map. Red dots, representing lost alien worlds, spread across the screen. But now, blue lines were forming too. The old Titans of War had begun to rise. Massive Earth-built machines, each piloted by someone long thought dead or missing, were moving. Not fast, but steady, as if they had always known this day would come. "They're all waking up," Kira whispered. "All of them." One screen showed a Titan rising from an ocean world, water crashing off its massive arms. Another showed a frozen moon cracking open as steel claws pulled free of the ice. But something strange was happening too. Alien fleets, those who had once feared humans, began to follow the Titans. Not to fight, but to join them. Even the once proud Arvaxians who had lost their home sent their last surviving warships toward the human Titans. They didn't ask for permission, they just followed. The galaxy was beginning to unite, but it still might not be enough. Back on the ghost planet, the forgotten ships opened new hatches. Strange beings floated down, tall, thin, made of metal and light. They didn't walk, they just hovered in silence, circling the giant. Vera stepped back. "Who are they?" The giant didn't look at her this time. It looked up at the stars. "Witnesses," it said. "They were here at the beginning, and they will be here at the end." "End of what?" she asked. The giant turned its head slowly toward her. "Everything." Suddenly, the giant raised one hand and every machine on the planet activated at once. The noise was deafening. Power surged. Ancient reactors lit up. The entire vault began to lift out of the ground like a rising fortress. On vigilant edge, alarms blared. "Captain," shouted a crew member, "that planet, it's moving." Maddox looked confused. "What do you mean, moving?" "The entire surface is lifting. It's not a vault, it's a ship." Back on the ghost world, the ground split open. The surface folded away like armor plates. Below it, engines the size of cities. Dust poured into space as the planet began to rise, no longer just a planet. It was a dreadnought, the first of the forgotten warships, and it was awakening. The giant looked down at Vera one last time. "You may return to Earth. Deliver this message." She couldn't breathe. She couldn't even stand. The air crackled around her. "Tell them the reckoning begins, and we remember." A beam of light shot from the giant's hand and wrapped around Vera's team. In seconds, they vanished. They reappeared aboard Vigilant Edge, unconscious but alive. Kira ran to the medbay as the ship's systems came back online. Maddox stared at the screen. The ancient dreadnought was lifting fully into space now. Engines, burning with power that defied science, he turned to his crew. "We need to warn Earth." Then the AI said one word. Too late. Earth's night skies changed without warning. All across the planet, the stars blinked, one by one, as something massive passed between them. People stopped in the streets. Satellites went dark. High above, in near orbit, telescopes captured it first. A ship. No. A dreadnought. It wasn't human. It wasn't Viler. It was older than both. The forgotten warship, lifted from the ghost planet, had arrived. Without sound, without warning. It cast a shadow over Earth's moon as it moved. Its engines made no fire, just pressure. Gravity bent in strange ways around it. All Earth's sensors tried to scan it but got nothing but errors. It simply existed, and then it spoke. Not through language, but through every signal at once. Every screen, every phone, every device across Earth showed one image. The masked face of the giant who had risen from the vault. Its voice boomed. "Earth, your titans awaken. But so do we. The reckoning is not revenge, it is balance." And then, silence. In the Earth Alliance Command Center, leaders stood frozen. Generals barked orders. Scientists stared at graphs they didn't understand. One general whispered, "How? Did they get here so fast?" "They didn't travel," said another. "They shifted. They used something beyond warp." Above the Pacific Ocean, the clouds parted. One of Earth's old titans rose from beneath the waves. Towering metal limbs, glowing with energy, pushed through the water. Birds scattered. Ships turned away. The titan stood, thousands of feet tall, its eyes bright blue, scanning the sky. Then another rose from Antarctica. Ice shattered like glass. Steam poured from hidden vents. Its armor was red, marked with the name Leviathan 4. One by one, the titans of war returned. Each had been buried or hidden in secret places across the solar system. Long ago, they were called humanity's final weapons. Now they were awake. And, waiting for orders, Captain Maddox watched it all from the Vigilant Edge, still orbiting the outer system. "Earth's waking them all," he said quietly. Beside him, Kira nodded. "But not fast enough. The Forgotten are already here." Suddenly, an alarm sounded. The AI's voice spoke. "New threat detected. Viler swarm. Approaching Earth. Estimated time, 15 hours. Maddox turned sharply. "The Viler? Now?" "Yes," the AI confirmed. "They are chasing the dreadnought. It didn't come alone. It led them here." "Then this was planned," Kira whispered. "The Forgotten used the Viler to bring war here." Maddox clenched his fists. "It's a trap." Back on Earth, General Rand stood before the Global Defense Council. "The Titans must be launched," he said. One counselor stood. "You want to activate all of them? That will reveal everything we've hidden. The public will panic." Rand stared at him coldly. "They already are. We built these things for this moment. Either we use them, or Earth burns." The vote passed. Titan control towers lit up. Across the globe, ancient systems powered on. Pilots, long kept in deep, cryosleep, were awakened. One of them, Commander Alec Ward, opened his eyes inside his Titan's core. A voice echoed in his helmet. "Commander Ward, the reckoning has begun. You are needed." Alec smiled. "About time." Within an hour, 20 Titans stood active across Earth and the Moon, each connected by deep neural link to its pilot. Each bonded through the old Earth protocol known only as Project Rage. But something was still missing. The Titans needed a command, a prime. The first Titan, lost over 40 years ago, was the key, and it had just been found. Deep in the asteroid belt, a mining crew stumbled onto a sealed hangar. Inside it, the missing Titan, taller than the rest, armor black as night, its chest marked with the words, Titan 0. Earth Command gasped when they saw it, the original Titan, the first built, the most dangerous. Titan 0 activated on its own. Its pilot had never died. He had simply been waiting. His name? Darius Voss. The man once feared even by Earth's enemies. He woke up, stood inside his Titan and whispered, "Let's finish this." Titan 0 blasted toward Earth. Back in orbit, the forgotten dreadnought began to shift. Its surface changed, becoming smooth, sharp, and glowing. Weapons appeared along its sides. Not cannons, not missiles. Something stranger, almost alive. The Viler swarm arrived seconds later. Hundreds of ships, all fury and fire. They fired first. The dreadnought didn't move. Instead, it opened a gate. Not a wormhole, a memory, a rift in space. Behind it, flashes of battles from other ages, fallen warriors, dead stars, time itself shivering. From that rift, something stepped out. Another figure. Humanoid. Tall. Wrapped in shadow. It stood beside the masked giant who had risen from the vault. 2 forgotten. Then 3. Then 5. They're forming their own Titan army. Kira said in horror. Maddox stared at the screen. And they're doing it right above Earth. Suddenly, Titan 0 reached orbit. All systems connected. All other Titans turned toward it. Its eyes glowed bright red. And then, it spoke. This war isn't about saving Earth. It's about saving everything else from Earth. Space was on fire. Above Earth, the Viler swarm had surrounded the planet. Thousands of their ships swirled like angry insects, each one armed with weapons that had already destroyed a dozen alien worlds. Their main hive ship, the size of a small moon, charged up its final cannon. The forgotten dreadnought floated near Earth's moon, silent, cold, unmoving. But inside, the 5 ancient giants stood ready. They were not machines, not entirely. They were something older, something made from memory, rage, and death. On Earth, the Titans stood tall. From deserts to oceans, mountains to frozen poles, the last line of defense had awakened. Each Titan was linked with a human pilot. Some old veterans, others freshly awakened from cryosleep. Their minds were synced with steel. Their hearts burned with purpose. At the center of them all stood Titan 0. Its black armor absorbed all light. Its glowing red eyes scanned the sky. Inside, Commander Darius Voss stood still, fists clenched. "This is your final warning," said the voice of the forgotten giant through every channel in the system. "Surrender Earth or be erased," Voss answered with a whisper. "Come try." And then the sky exploded. The Viler launched the first wave, heavy cruisers diving into Earth's atmosphere, shooting plasma storms at major cities. But the Titans moved fast, precise, angry. Titan Leviathan 4 leapt from the South Pole and grabbed 2 Viler ships in midair, crushing them like paper. Titan Hyperion rose from the Atlantic and used its pulse cannon to vaporize an entire squadron in one blast. People on Earth watched from rooftops, from bunkers, from screens. They saw hope where there was only fear before. They saw humanity fight back. Captain Maddox, still on vigilant edge, guided orbital defense weapons to cover the Titans. Kira sat beside him. watching Titan Zero move like a ghost between enemy ships. Never missing, never slowing down. He's not just fighting, she whispered. He's leading. But the Forgotten weren't done. They activated their dreadnought. A beam of red energy shot from its core, cutting through an Earth city's outer defenses. The Titan nearest it, Era 7, took the hit. Its pilot screamed. Systems failed. Titan, Ares 7 fell. The Earth Alliance gasped. One Titan down. The Viler pushed harder. Titan Vanguard 9 was surrounded. Its legs were damaged. Its pilot, barely out of training, panicked. I can't hold. Before she could finish, Titan Zero appeared behind her. Fall back, Voss ordered. I'll hold them. But you'll be... Go! Titan Zero raised both arms. Its core glowed. Then it released a pulse of energy so powerful it blew dozens of Viler ships away in seconds. But it came at a cost. Inside the Titan, warnings screamed, power levels dropping, armor cracked. Voss closed his eyes for a second, remembering. Saw faces. His old squad. His brother. His son. All lost in the last war. He whispered. Not again. Back on Earth, a message came through. Encrypted, barely readable. Kira read it aloud. Protocol Exodus read. Activate all Titans for final sync. Earth Command override approved. Maddox understood. They're linking all the Titans into one mind. One attack. One final chance. The Titans stopped moving for a moment. Then, in perfect unison, their eyes glowed the same color. Red. Titan Zero stood at the center. Voss took a breath. Let's end this. The Titans launched into space, faster than any human tech had moved before. Together they flew in formation straight toward the Viler hive ship. The Forgotten dreadnought moved to block them, but the Titans didn't stop. Instead, they broke formation. Titan Leviathan 4 tackled the dreadnought head-on, opening a path. Inside Earth's command center, people held hands. Some cried, some prayed. In the silence of space, the final battle began. Titan Zero reached the hive ship. Voss opened all weapons, fired everything. Missiles, lasers, shockwaves, everything. But the hive ship fought back. It launched beams of pure antimatter. Titan Armorous was hit. The pilot screamed. Then silence. Another Titan down. Voss pushed forward. He opened the final. Protocol. Core overload. Inside his cockpit, a red light blinked. Warning. This will end the pilot. He smiled. Good. As Titan Zero smashed through the hive ship's outer wall, Voss sent one last message. To all of Earth. Fight for those who can't. Win for those who fell. And never forget who we are. He exploded the core. A light brighter than the sun filled the sky. The hive ship shattered. The Viler screamed. They fell back, scattered, broken. The Forgotten dreadnought, badly damaged, turned and disappeared into deep space. Earth was safe. For now, in orbit, Maddox whispered, Is he gone? Kira looked down at Earth. Maybe, but his name will never die. On the surface, people came out of hiding. They cheered. They wept. They held each other. The war was over. The Titans had returned, and one man had saved them all. The world was quiet. Too quiet. 3 weeks after the battle, Earth's skies were calm. The Viler swarm had vanished. The Forgotten dreadnought had not returned. People walked the streets again, repaired their cities, and tried to smile. But in the silence, something felt wrong. Above the moon, broken Viler wreckage still floated. Earth's remaining Titans stood watch near major cities, their massive metal forms now symbols of survival. The people called them the Giants of Hope. But hope was fragile. Inside the main Titan command facility beneath Iceland's frozen crust, Captain Kira Lang stared at a strange signal on the screen. This doesn't make sense, she said softly. It's coming from deep space, but it's bouncing between Earth's old satellites. Her assistant frowned. A glitch? No, she replied. It's a message. She played it. A distorted voice came through, twisted, layered with static, but 3 words were clear. He's still alive. Kira's heart stopped. She leaned forward. Who sent this? I don't know, the tech said. It's encrypted, old Earth code, from before the Titan program even started. Kira's fingers shook slightly. Her mind raced. Voss had overloaded Titan Zero's core. Everyone saw the explosion. It should have vaporized everything unless... He didn't die, she whispered. He merged. Suddenly the facility lights flickered, alarms blared, the AI spoke. Unknown signal detected. Origin, Titan Zero. Everyone froze. That's impossible, the tech gasped. Kira stared at the screen. Show me. A hologram appeared. Titan Zero. But different. Its armor was no longer black. It had shifted to deep gray with streaks of glowing red. Its eyes no longer glowed red. They glowed white, and it was moving. Somehow it had rebuilt itself piece by piece from the wreckage left behind. Where is it? Kira demanded. The AI responded. On Mars, buried under Olympus Mons. Kira's breath caught. Mars had been silent for years. It was once a human colony, until the Viler attacked it in the early days of the war. Everyone thought it was lost forever. Now, it seemed Mars had hidden something more. Kira turned to the council. I need a ship. I'm going to Mars. They objected, of course. Mars is off limits. It's too dangerous. What if it's a trap? But she didn't care. She boarded a fast dropship with a small team, just 3 others. Each one trusted. Each one had fought beside her. They launched under radio silence. As they neared Mars, the old fear returned. The planet was red and dead. But something moved in the dust. As they landed near Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system, the ship shook violently. A pulse of energy shot upward from beneath the mountain. A voice came through every comm, every screen. It was him. Darius. But his voice was different. Slower. Deeper. Almost mechanical. He said, You came. Good. Earth isn't safe yet. Kira whispered. What happened to you? There was a pause. I became what I had to be. Titan Zero and I are no longer separate. We are one. Mind and machine. Soul and steel. The ground rumbled. The mountain cracked, and from the center of it, Titan Zero rose, not crawling, not climbing, but flying. It hovered above the peak, arms stretched out, glowing with power. By the stars, one soldier muttered. Kira stared in awe. He's not just a weapon anymore, he's something new. But then, everything changed. A tear opened in space above Mars, not a normal wormhole. A dark rift, like a wound in reality. And from it came screams. Black shapes emerged, twisted, half-formed things. Not Viler. Not forgotten. Something worse. The AI screamed, Unknown species detected. Warning, level 10 threat. Voss looked up. His new voice echoed, They're here. The real war has begun. Kira stepped forward. Who are they? They were locked beyond time. The ones who created the Forgotten, and then tried to erase them. Kira's team stood frozen. One of the black creatures roared, and Mars's sky cracked like glass. Titan Zero lifted both arms and fired beams of white-hot light at the creatures. One exploded, but 2 more came through. We need Earth's help, Kira shouted into the comm. But Earth didn't respond. All signals were blocked. Then Titan Zero said something strange. No, we don't need Earth to send Titans. We need Earth to remember who it truly is. Kira turned. What does that mean? But before she could get an answer, one of the creatures slammed into their ship. Metal bent. Fire burst. The team screamed. The screen went black. The sky above Mars was filled with monsters. Black, twisted shapes circled the red planet like vultures. They came through the dark rift in space, creatures made of shadow and fire, with no name, no mercy, and no weakness. Earth had never seen anything like them. On the surface, smoke rose from the wreckage of Kira's ship. Metal twisted. Flames danced across the sand. Inside the broken hull, Kira gasped as she opened her eyes. Blood dripped from her forehead. A sharp pain shot through her side. She looked around. Her team was down. 2 were dead, only 1 other. Sergeant Finn was still breathing. "Can you move?" she whispered. He coughed. "Barely. Where's Titan Zero?" Suddenly, the ground shook. A loud hum filled the air. From above Olympus Mons, Titan Zero appeared. Its new form hovered above the mountain like a god, armor glowing white, eyes burning with purpose, and it was not alone. In the distance, 2 of the Mars defense titans, thought long destroyed, rose from the sand. Old damaged, but still functional. Voss's voice came through every comm. "They're waking up. The titans you thought were gone. They've waited." Kira dragged herself outside. The red dust stung her eyes, but what she saw made her freeze. Titan Zero pointed at the dark rift in space. Hundreds of creatures were pouring out now. Earth didn't know. Earth couldn't see. She whispered, "This is not a second wave. This is extinction." Titan Zero landed near her. Its chest opened and Voss stepped out, not fully human anymore. His body had changed. Some parts were mechanical. His eyes glowed faintly, but it was still him. Kira stared. "You're alive." Voss nodded. "Not exactly, but I remember who I was, and I know what's coming." She looked at the rift. "What are they?" He paused, then said, "They are the architects, the first destroyers, the ones who created the Viler and the Forgotten, then tried to wipe them out when they grew too strong. Now, they've come for everything else." Kira's voice broke. "And Earth doesn't know. We're cut off." Voss looked up. "That's why we're going to send a message, the final one." He reached into Titan Zero's chest core and pulled out a glowing shard. "The beacon," he said. "Old tech, pre-Earth war. No creature in this galaxy can block it." He turned to the 2 Mars Titans. "We're sending the signal from the mountain peak, but we'll need to hold the line." As if on cue, the ground behind them cracked open. One of the black creatures rose, twice the size of a Titan. Its mouth was a hole of spinning teeth. It let out a scream that shook the mountain. "Go," Voss shouted to Kira and Finn. "Get to the peak. Activate the beacon." He jumped back into Titan Zero. The creature roared and charged. Voss met it head on. Metal clashed. Light exploded. Kira ran with Finn up the mountain, dodging falling rocks and broken machinery. Above them, more black monsters fell from the sky. Time was running out. They reached the peak, a ruined comms tower half buried in dust. Kira slammed the beacon shard into the core. The machine lit up. A countdown began. Beacon activation, 30 seconds. Below. Them Titan Zero fought like a storm, dodging, smashing, burning. The Mars Titans backed him up, but they were slow and old. One was crushed. The other exploded. Only Titan Zero remained. Kira's fingers flew over controls. Seconds. A shadow fell over her. She turned. Another creature had landed. Smaller, but faced a charge toward her. Finn stepped in front of her with his rifle. "Go," he said. He fired. The creature tackled him and dragged him off the edge. Kira screamed, but kept working. Seconds. The creature reached her. 2. The beacon fired. A pulse of golden light shot into the sky. The creature froze. Shaking violently, it turned to ash. The light kept rising, past the atmosphere, through orbit, faster than anything Earth had ever built. Back on Earth, in the deep, Titan Control Center, an ancient console blinked to life for the first time in decades. A voice came through. Kira's voice. "This is Captain Kira Lang on Mars. They're here, the ones behind the Viler, the real enemy. Earth is not safe. We need help now. Titan Zero is still active, Voss is alive, and the war isn't over." The message looped. General Maddox stood frozen. He turned to the Titan command crew. "Wake them all," he ordered. "Every sleeping pilot, every buried Titan, we're going back to war." In space, the dark rift opened wider. A shape appeared. Something massive. Even Titan Zero looked small next to it. Kira stared up from the mountain and whispered, "What is that?" Voss answered from the comm. "That is their god." The shape in the sky was unlike anything ever seen. It didn't move, it didn't speak, it just existed. Like a piece of the universe had broken off and decided to awaken. Kira stood on the peak of Olympus Mons, her body shaking. Titan Zero stood beside her, battle-worn and burning. Voss's voice came through the comm, quieter now. Like, even he felt fear. That thing, it's not a ship, it's not a creature, it's something older. Something that shouldn't exist. From the dark rift, smaller creatures continued to pour out. The children of the architects, spreading across Mars like shadows. Each one screamed without sound, destroying everything they touched. But above them all, that thing floated, watching. And then, finally, it moved. Not fast, just a ripple through space. A pressure across the air, as if gravity itself bent around. Voss spoke again, voice firm now. "We can't fight it with weapons. That is beyond tech. We need something older. Something human." Kira didn't understand. "What do you mean?" Voss stepped out of Titan Zero's chest. His body was broken, his skin glowing with veins of light. Half machine now, half soul. He held the beacon in his hand again, now dim. "I've seen its mind," he said. "It doesn't understand fear, or love, or sacrifice. That's what Earth still has." Kira blinked through tears. "Then what do we do?" He looked at her. "We wake the last Titan." She froze. "No. You don't mean—" "Yes," Voss said. "Titan 1, the original, the first, hidden on Earth's moon. Shut down after it almost destroyed the planet in testing. But it's the only thing that can stop this." Kira grabbed his arm. "That thing went rogue. It's unstable." "So, 'twas I," Voss said. "But I changed." He gave her the beacon. "Take this. Get to Earth. Wake Titan 1. I'll hold them off." "No," she said. "You'll die." Voss smiled. "I already did. This is just finishing the mission." Before, she could argue, Titan Zero's chest closed around him. The machine turned and launched into the sky like a comet. Kira watched as Titan Zero shot toward the architect god, its engines burning white. The two forces met in silence, light against darkness, and then an explosion tore across the Martian. Sky Titan Zero was gone. Kira fell to her knees. But her hands held the beacon. She knew what had to be done. Hours later, on Earth's moon, the ancient Titan chamber opened for the first time in 80 years. Titan 1 stood tall, towering above every other Titan ever built, covered in dust, covered in warnings. "Do not activate," said the red lights on its chest. Kira ignored them. She slammed the beacon into the core. The Titan's eyes opened, not red, not blue, but gold. The voice that spoke wasn't human or machine. It was something in between. "Why have you called me?" Kira stood before it. "Earth is falling. Mars is falling. The architects are back." There was silence. Then it answered, "Then I will rise." Above Mars, the architect god turned slowly. As a new ripple passed through space from Earth's moon, a golden streak flashed across the stars. Titan 1 arrived. It didn't land. It didn't pause. It attacked. Its first strike shattered a dozen enemy creatures. Its second opened a hole in the sky. The architect screamed, its first sound high, broken, and furious. Titan 1 kept coming. It fought with no fear, no hesitation. Earth watched from orbit, from bunkers, from silent cities, and for the first time, they believed again. Kira stood in her ship, watching the battle from above. Her voice whispered through Earth's networks. "We are still here. We are not done. And we remember who we are." The final battle lasted 2 hours. Titan 1 pushed the architect back through the rift. Then, it entered the rift itself. It looked back only once. its golden eyes burning like twin suns. And then it was gone. The rift closed. Mars was quiet again. Days later, Earth held a ceremony. Statues were built for the fallen Titans, for the lost soldiers, and for Darius Voss. But the last statue was left blank for Titan 1, because no one knew what it had become. But Kira believed. She stood on Earth's surface, staring at the stars, her voice soft. They thought we were weak. They thought we were scattered. But they didn't know the truth. She looked up. Every alien world was falling until Earth arrived.